YNW Juvy and YNW Sakchaser. They're 21 years old. They're on the rise. Bullets rip through the vehicle. Both young men die at the scene. In the history of hip-hop, there is one song that stands alone. One song so dark, so chilling, that when it started playing on radios across America, millions of people were singing along to words they didn't fully understand. Words that described a murder. Words that described his murder. Because when YNW Melly released the biggest hit of his career, he was already the prime suspect in a double homicide. And the world didn't know it yet. But here's what makes this story truly unbelievable. That hit song wasn't just about a crime. It was about his crime. And the same song that made him famous would later be played in a courtroom as evidence against him. So how did a young rapper from Florida turn a double murder charge into a platinum record? And more importantly, why hasn't he been convicted after all these years? Stick around, because this story has more twists than a crime drama, and it's still not over. October 26, 2018, a warm night in Miramar, Florida. 4 friends driving home in a Compass Trailhawk Jeep, YNW Juvy and YNW Sakchaser. They're 21 years old. They're on the rise. And then, in an instant, gunfire erupts. Bullets rip through the vehicle. Both young men die at the scene. A third passenger survives. That survivor, YNW Bortlen, another member of the same rap group, and one of Melly's closest friends. On paper, it looked like a drive-by, a tragic, random act of street violence. And for weeks, that's exactly what the world believed. But the truth was darker, much darker. Because when investigators dug into that night, something didn't add up. The timeline, the injuries, the story, and slowly, the evidence started pointing somewhere no one expected. Right back at the top of the rap group. Right back at YNW Melly. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to understand who YNW Melly was. Born Jamel Demons in 1999 in Gifford, Florida. A kid from a rough neighborhood who found his voice in music. He and his friends formed YNW, a collective of young rappers chasing the same dream out of the same struggle. Juvy, Sakchaser, Bortlen, Melly, brothers in everything but blood. And Melly had the star power. He had the melodies, the charisma, the pain in his voice that made people feel something. His music wasn't clean, it was raw, it was honest about the life he came from, including the violence around him. Then, in 2018, he dropped a song that would change everything. Murder on My Mind. Now here's the part that still gives people chills. The song was a confessional. A track where the narrator describes committing murder, the guilt, the weight, the paranoia. Fans thought it was just good storytelling. Dark art, a rapper playing a character, but just a few months later,
double murder in Miramar?
2 people now behind bars, including a South Florida rapper who actually sings a popular song about murder.
Local 10's Christian De La Rosa joining us live now with more on the suspects arrested today. Christian.
Just moments ago, we obtained this rapper's mugshot from the Broward County Jail. He turned himself into authorities tonight. He and his alleged accomplice now behind bars.
That character would be charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. And the lyrics, they stopped sounding like fiction. Here's where the story gets its strangest twists. Because right as the walls were closing in, the music was exploding. On February 13, 2019, YNW Melly turned himself into police. He was arrested and charged with the murders of his 2 lifelong friends, YNW Juvy and YNW Sakchaser. The rapper who sang about murder was now accused of living it. You'd think that would be the end of his career. It was the exact opposite. The news of his arrest sent shockwaves through the internet. Everyone wanted to hear the song from the rapper who'd been charged with murder. Murder on My Mind, already climbing, went supernova. It hit the Billboard Hot 100. It became his breakout hit. Millions of streams, radio play, his name everywhere. The irony was almost too dark to process. The song about murder made him famous. The murder made the song famous. The two fed each other. His label released the music anyway. His fans bought it. And from behind bars, YNW Melly was watching his career reach heights he'd never touched as a free man. But the prosecution was watching too. And they had a theory. They believed that song wasn't just art. They believed it was a confession. Now, let's talk about the evidence, because this case is a legal nightmare that refuses to end. The state of Florida's case hinged on a crucial claim, that this wasn't a random drive-by at all. They argued that Melly shot his two friends himself, then staged the scene to look like a drive-by and drove the victims to the hospital in a desperate attempt to control the story. And alongside Melly, the state charged someone else, YNW Bortlen, the survivor, the third member of the group, the man in the car that night. He was charged as a co-defendant, facing his own set of serious charges. If the state had its way, he was looking at life in prison too. But here's the important part, and it's a detail most people get wrong. Bortlen was never the prosecution's star witness against Melly. He was a co-defendant, facing his own separate trial. The state's case against Melly was built on something else entirely: forensic evidence, DNA analysis, cell tower, and a painstaking reconstruction of that night. Two brothers in the group facing the justice system side by side, and nobody knew how it would end. In June 2023, nearly 5 years after the murders, Melly's case finally went to trial. The whole world was watching. Court TV carried it live. True crime fans, hip-hop fans, everyone tuned in to see whether the state could make its case stick. And here's what most people get wrong. In that first trial, the song wasn't the star. The prosecution's case was built entirely on physical evidence. Forensic analysts reconstructing the scene, DNA experts matching evidence. The state argued this wasn't a random drive-by at all. They said Melly shot his two friends himself, staged the scene to look like an ambush, and drove the victims to the hospital in a desperate attempt to control the story. The defense, they painted a completely different picture. They said the real shooter was never caught, that the case was built on circumstantial evidence, that the forensic story didn't hold together. Then something happens that felt scripted by Hollywood.
This investigation went on for 5 years. The only person every piece of evidence points to is this defendant.
The Jolly Green Giant or the midget was a shooter in this case. They would either be closer to the car or further from the car, depending upon their size.
Witness after witness got tangled up. Testimony got messy. The story got murkier, and after days of deliberation, the jury came back deadlocked. A hung jury. Mistrial. After 5 years behind bars, after the biggest trial of his life, the jury couldn't agree. Not guilty. Not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Just nothing. Melly's team called it a win. The prosecution called it a delay. And the rapper walked back to his cell, still presumed innocent in the eyes of the law, but still locked up. But then something shifted, because as the state regrouped for a retrial, they reached for a new weapon. In December 2023, prosecutors moved to put Melly's own lyrics into evidence, 55 songs worth, including the very track that made him famous, Murder on My Mind. A judge approved it. The same song the world had been singing in clubs was about to be played in a courtroom. Not in the first trial, but in the one that was coming. And that brings us to the part of this story that's almost impossible to believe, because it's now been years since that mistrial. And YNW Melly is still in jail. No verdict, no freedom, just an endless, brutal wait. Here's where we have to talk about what's happening right now. The current legal status as of 2026. After the 2023 mistrial, the state didn't drop the case. They pushed for a retrial, and they made it clear how seriously they're taking this. Prosecutors have indicated that if Melly is convicted, he could face the death penalty. That's how high the stakes are now. Not just prison, not just life, potentially the ultimate sentence.
South Florida rapper YNW Melly is denied bond yet again. A source with direct knowledge of the case tells NBC6 Melly will remain jailed until his trial that happens next year.
In 2025, a judge denied Melly's request for bond, meaning he would stay in custody while waiting.
Rapper YNW Melly's witness tampering trial. State attorneys confirming the witness tampering charges dropped against the rapper.
In early 2026, the witness tampering charges that had been filed against him were dropped, but the double murder charges remained. And then there's Bortlen. In September 2025, his separate case came to an end. Facing the possibility of life in prison, he pleaded no contest to accessory after the fact and witness tampering, a deal that gave him 10 years behind bars, followed by 6 years of probation. And here's the detail that shows how deep their bond ran. As part of that deal, Bortlen was not required to testify against his old friend Melly. Even at the end, he never turned on him. And as of August 2026, YNW Melly remains in custody, nearly 8 years after his arrest. His retrial is now set for January 2027, nearly 8 years after the night he was arrested. Think about that for a second. The man who made a song about murder, who watched it go platinum while he sat in a cell, who saw a jury fail to convict him, and who is still there, waiting. So what do we make of this story? Because YNW Melly is one of the most fascinating figures in modern hip hop, not just for what he did, but for what his story reveals about the machine. The music industry sold his tragedy, his label released his music, promoted it, and profited from it, all while he faced a possible death sentence. The song that might condemn him is the same song that made him a star. The fame and the crime became inseparable, one feeding the other in a cycle that nobody could stop. And the fans, they're still divided. Some are convinced the lyrics are a confession. Others are convinced he's innocent, a victim of a broken system. Ask any two people about YNW Melly, and you'll get two completely different stories. That's what makes this case so magnetic. It's not just a murder trial. It's a debate about art versus reality, about whether words can convict a man, about whether a confession can be a hit single. And underneath it all is one of the saddest bonds in hip hop. Two friends charged side by side for the deaths of two other friends, one of them facing a possible death sentence, the other eventually taking a deal to save his own life. Right now, YNW Melly is still waiting. His retrial is set for January 2027. And until that day, one question hangs over everything. Was Murder on My Mind just a song, or was it the truest thing he ever recorded? We may finally get the answer in 2027, or this case may keep slipping. Another delay, another chapter in a story that never seems to end. One thing is certain, whatever happens next, YNW Melly has already cemented his place in hip hop history as the rapper who wrote a hit song about his own crime and then spent nearly a decade waiting to see if it would set him free or bury him. If this story kept you hooked, you know what to do. Smash that like button and hit subscribe to Hip Hop History Vault. We dig into the darkest, most unbelievable stories in hip hop, and we're just getting started. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.